In every heart, regardless of culture or birthplace, lies a deep yearning to prosper and be independent. Ou vleran souf epi, ou dwe en sécurité financière.
I now have a long-term financial plan.
Les soucis d'argent sont réels, mais je me ressource pour moi et ma famille.
Nunca acreditamos que poderíamos reconstruir o nosso legado, mas agora podemos.
Surayatu inayofuata imeanza.
What I teach my son, I teach my son's son.
From the African diaspora and across America, discover the power of Wekeza.
Sika kola bea ne sika awode beto ye wa mamere.
Sika merehia me homono soba me potam hofosum fasor.
Non lanui mum sunuker.
Build lifetimes of financial security.
Wekeza.
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 Wekeza! We speak your language. Wekeza. Connecting communities, building financial futures. Join us now.
What if I told you your child could become an educated consumer, investor, entrepreneur, and a philanthropist, all from the comfort of your laptop or mobile phone?
And could learn how to manage one of the world's most powerful currencies, money.
It's true. I'm Sienna.
And I'm Dante, and we are both World of Money Youth Board members.
I know firsthand how life-changing it is to be financially capable. When I was 11, my parents enrolled me and my siblings in the World of Money Institute, where I learned how to budget, invest, and donate my money.
I first attended World of Money when I was 12, and now, like us, over 5,000 young people globally and growing. Your child also can become financially educated with the World of Money online course.
This award-winning financial education program is tailored for ages 7 through 21. Our course provides 160 self-guided lessons, videos, activities, quizzes, live homerooms, and scheduled town halls.
During the course, your child will learn about budgeting and saving, compound interest, artificial intelligence, and so much more.
Give your child the foundation for their financial security and generational wealth. Register for the World of Money online course today.
TheWorldOfMoney.org.
Developing financially responsible adults,
one child at a time.
And greetings and welcome wherever you are to Planet Wekeza. I am Sabrina Lamb, the founder and CEO of Wekeza, which means in Swahili to save and invest. Investing is not just about money, but it's also about education, culture, and our global diaspora community across Africa and the Caribbean. We're always invested in each other through family, mutual aid, and entrepreneurship. And today, right now, we're going to connect those traditions with modern tools as well as language and really appreciating our own unique cultures and unified cultures throughout the planet. Today, we're joined by Konko Ba, who is going to share his insights, perspectives from a Senegalese Wolof perspective, and Nafessa Wazir sharing from Harari perspective from Harari, Ethiopia. So let's bring them to the stage. Welcome, Konko and Nafessa.
Hello. I'm so glad to be here.
Hi, Sabrina. Thank you very much for having us. I'm very flattered and honored to be on Planet Wekeza. And really, I hope we're going to get into some engaging conversation and looking forward to my peer, Nafessa, as well, and the conversation that we're going to build on today. Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. So let's have a little bit of fun with a true-false questions, the answer to these true-false questions, rather. You've sent money home and the recipient used it for something completely different than what you intended. True or false?
True.
True.
Okay, you've been asked to explain American financial concepts like credit scores or 401k plans to family back home.
True.
False.
True or false? You've ever had to negotiate the price of something in your native language while your American friends watched in amazement?
True.
True.
True or false? In America, do you find yourself bartering for in exchange for goods and services? And is that the kind of culture in Ethiopia and Senegal?
True.
No. False.
Okay. True or false? Your parents or grandparents have given you money advice that would make a Western financial advisor either be inspired or cringe.
True.
True.
And what was that? What was that advice?
My grandfather used to say, never spend more than what you have. Basically, no credit. Did not believe in any type of credit at all, or leveraging credit or debt.
Nafessa?
Yes. So I would say that it's the same in Ethiopian culture as well. It's pretty much a very strong emphasis on saving rather than investments or anything like that.
You know, credit is a uniquely Western concept. It wasn't really introduced in America to maybe the 1950s, and certain racial groups were actually excluded from being able to have credit. So it is relatively new. True or false? You've ever been to the bank for family or friends because you live in America, or actually you're considered the bank because you live in America?
True.
Nafessa, are you considered the bank?
For
the banks.
I mean, I think it's just that kind of prosperity or, vision that I guess people that are still back home have for themselves. So when you do make it out, you're kind of seen as that bank per se.
Final true or false? You have experienced sticker shock when you're comparing the cost of something in the United States versus back home in Senegal or Ethiopia.
True.
True, but I want to say it this way.
Mm-hmm.
The sticker shock actually came, in my opinion, of the price in Senegal of a similar item found here in the U.S. So it would not have been what I expected, but that is the sticker shock I often see.
Excellent. So let's talk about identity and origins. We've all immigrated from someplace, no matter how long our families have, or we've been here, or our families have been here. But in your native tongue, what is the word for home, and spiritually, where is your home? And if you could say that, introduce that answer in your native tongue, Wolof or Harari, and Harari.
Nafessa, I'll let you go first if you like.
Yeah, so you say house, the way that you say house is gar. And I would say, I grew up in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia specifically, but I live here in DC. Do you want me to just say that in Harari?
Please.
Okay. أنا بريبازح بعد Washington DC أنت but زليق حبو بعد Atlanta Georgia أنت.
Okay. Konko?
So in Wolof, so first and foremost, Senegal, Wolof is the most spoken language, right? But there are several other languages, Sarakhule, Tukulur, that I do not speak, but Wolof is the one that most Senegalese will understand and speak. And after that, I would say our institutional language, which is French. So sometimes you'll find us use a French word for the absence of knowing the exact word in Wolof. In my case, because I may not be the most proficient in Wolof, even though I was born in Moscow, but I grew up a little bit all over due to what my parents did for work. So I ended up somewhere in Belgium, in London, in Gambia, in North Africa, Algeria, then lived in the United States, New York being my favorite city. I decided to come back for me, what I consider now my second home. So home in Senegal is kër, sama kër. And also the head of the household is called the borom kër, the owner of the home. So it's really a pillar in our society. It's really where you find refuge, comfort, security, prosperity, and it's an extension of your values. So it embodies all of that when you say kër and when you say sama kër. Wala suñu kër, wala suñu waa kër. That's our family, the people from our home, from where we come from, with our values. So that is really a profound meaning that transcends, just your traditional where I rest my head.
Beautiful. And what is the word for money in your respective languages, and how does it relate to the word for home?
So I'll say there's about 80 different languages in Ethiopia. I speak one of them, and the majority spoken. Oops,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. The majority spoken language is Amharic. So I'll say it in Amharic and then I'll say it in Harari. So the way that you say money is mahalak, and the way in Harari, but then the way that you say money in Amharic is ganzab. So I would say that, sorry, what was your follow-up question?
How does that word money relate to the word home? And as Konko said, in the Wolof language, that relates to refuge. He used the word refuge. How does that money relate to the word refuge?
Can we come back to me?
Yeah, and if there's no word, which I feel like is really interesting for that, that's illuminating as well. So absolutely, you can always come back to that. So if you would talk about how did the discussion of money, what was the framework for money in your respective either family or community or culture? And actually in the Wolof tradition or the Senegalese tradition, family and in Ethiopia as well, are you considered your nuclear family or the collective family? How is your family model framed? Collectively, extended niece, nephew, and everything, and everyone centers around that home, or is it nuclear? Your mother, your father, and then your brothers and sisters.
So I could lead this one. So for our home, I would say the nuclear family, right? My mom, my dad, my siblings constitute our home, suñu kër, right? But suñu waa kër, the people from our house, is our extended family. So my uncle's home, right, is part of our home. My aunt's home is part of our home. So it's very frequent that for the afternoon we'll be left in our our aunt or uncle's home to spend the afternoon and be with my cousins, and that's our home as well. So even though physically they may be located in different vicinity, is still part of suñu kër, our home. And just to interject, I know I did not address the point of money, which is xaalis. So money is defined as xaalis in our culture. And xaalis is something that is important but not spoken about. So for instance, like my mom may never know how much my dad earned, right? We may never know what my dad earned. He will never share it with us. We may not even know how much it pay rent or the bill or whatever. But it is understood that it is his responsibility and it's almost out of respect and discretion that we will not even address these issues openly, to be quite frank. So Khalis, even though it is an important mechanism and tool to satisfy our needs and things, it's still spoken of a little bit as a taboo subject, especially when younger people are around or people that are not very close to the family. It's really kept to the boromke. So the boromke, that person is really the one managing the money, paying the expenses, knowing exactly what the financial situation of the home is truly. His role or her role is to make the sense that we are not lacking anything. So no matter what family you are, right, there are certain things that are expected. For example, at least at the time when I grew up, your 3 meals will be served. And it's almost similar in each family, right? We almost have the same clothes. So again, Khalis and home is dedicated to this boromke, right? The one who sits on top of the family, the matriarch or patriarch, and then it's not really spoken about, to be quite honest, in detail.
Love it. Nafessa.
Yes, I would say that the home extends to everybody in the neighborhood. Like when I think about every time I visit Daradoa or Harar or Addis Ababa, everyone's always looking out for each other, regardless if it's just your neighbor. We're always, keeping abreast of whatever issues they're having. If there's a funeral, if there's a community event, if there's a wedding, it's always seen as a collective community engagement. It's not as separated as it is for here in America.
So what are the expectations? Let's say that, because it's Konko, as you've said, that it's almost a taboo subject. It's not discussed with the children. So how are the children expected to thrive financially if they're not taught how to manage money? And this subject actually permeates throughout the African diaspora. So we'd love to hear your insights. How are children, when they become, they go out into the world, they go to university, what have you, how are they supposed to know how to manage money if it's not permitted to discuss in family?
Okay, so I can speak for me, right? The emphasis to the children or the young adults is via education in lots of time, in my particular circumstance, right? So the money issue is gonna solve itself in a way. And there's also a saying, right, that money, Khalis, is just here to satisfy needs. So that this point is important to me in a way that if you have a need today, right, it's almost my obligation to satisfy that need because I don't have that need, and the money that I have, right, is to satisfy a need. So the concept of saving is secondary or even behind secondary, right? Because and if your extended family is your extended family, well, you could see quickly how you could spend a big portion of your time, for us anyways, abiding to that principle is like money is really worthless if you cannot satisfy a need. And when we say a need, when I say a need here, it's mostly an immediate need. Not a need to save to buy a home for yourself, not a need to save to buy a car for yourself, not a need to save to buy stocks or right for asset that will appreciate financially, but an immediate need.
Okay, Nafessa.
For my family growing up, and from what I saw from cousins and friends and relatives that are also Ethiopian, was just a strong emphasis on saving and then a push towards traditional paths, whether that's medicine, law, accounting, just anything that's extremely stable, to just have that sense of security, which I understand, right? They left everything behind back home in Ethiopia and took a huge risk. So it's when you come here, do the right thing, unquotes, do the right thing, and that right thing being following that traditional path.
Thank you very much. So what is the expectation financially to remain, how do you remain connected, actually, first of all, beyond money, and then together with money? What is the expectation in terms of your connection with your homeland or your family, your community back home?
I can start this one. So there's actually a nonprofit organization that my community started about 30 years ago. And basically we host it in different parts of North America. And it's basically a week-long events that are like a culture day. And it's basically, there's various events and it depends on the year. But this is just to keep us all together. Obviously, because the majority of us are here in the States.
Konko?
Right. Yeah, and before I answer that question quickly, my perspective earlier about how I've learned about money or what my expectation is really for my family and my experience. But the same subject could be asked to somebody, the same question could be asked to someone else whose family are, let's say, jewel makers or they merchant, right? So them intuitively, they've thought to save, to buy, to sell, to resell, to stock, to inventory. So my experience is different than a lot of other experiences that other Senegalese people may have. So I just wanted to clear that out, that our emphasis in our family of education and that it's going to resolve itself is really my experience and maybe my closed network experience. But we have, groups of people who actually their specialties would be in business or in a certain trade, and they will have a different perspective, and they will probably you'll find that they probably are the wealthiest group in our country than unfortunately the other group, just because I would, in my opinion, they may be more practical and more aware of money and have thought of money earlier in their childhood. So to answer your question now in regards to the expectations, right? It is, from my experience, once again, is that duty, responsibility, right, to provide anyone who may have a need that I already have satisfied, right? So my instinct would be that if I were to be home, right, to look out for, it could be friends, that maybe wasn't fortunate enough, because I didn't do anything to deserve to have what I have in the way that I look at it, right? It's the stars, it's God, it's luck, it's whatever you want to call it. So it is my responsibility, my point of view, that this is still my obligation, right? And to the younger generation, I also have that responsibility, right? That I feel that whatever I could do to ease someone's, I could give you an example, right? Someone's family to be able to have their son or daughter get to school safely and commute, and I could do something, and that could be so minor, right? It could be $50, it could be $100, but that could go a couple of months that would satisfy somebody's commute. I'm almost obligated to do it, right? That $100, I could spend it in a weekend here. So things like that is still something that I feel personally that is still part of my obligation every time I'm home, and even when I'm not, because now there's so many tools that people can hit you up for something when you translate it, right? It's so little, right? 10, 12, 11, 8, $7, but you know what it means if somebody just happens to get it today. Because this goes to my next point, right? Is that there is this need, everyday need, Sabrina. Like there are people that wake up and their primary point or goal is to how we're going to provide for today. How we're going to get 2 pounds of rice, a cup of oils, some protein, to make that dish for the day, and then tomorrow is another day. So giving that in perspective, that obligation is never detached from me at all times.
Nafessa, would you like to add?
Yeah, I would say, there is an expectation that when you do go back home, there is, you are coming with something. Like the same way here in the States, if you're coming to visit somebody's home, you're not going to show up empty-handed, right? So, when I visit my grandparents, I do bring, money back, because it's like, you're letting me stay here for essentially free for a month, or, the summers that I grew up here. And specifically for my grandma, she's the one that taught me my language. So I do feel a sense of responsibility and obligation in that regard.
What is the responsibility, or if it exists in your culture, for your own financial security? Is there any responsibility to make sure that you're financially secure? And which comes first, your financial security, and then making sure that everyone is secure at home, or the people in your family? Is there, or has to happen in together?
I think it's happening all at once, realistically, because like Konko mentioned, the struggles that they have are ongoing, and it's very immediate needs most of the time. It's like rent, it's like food. It's not money that's spent frivolously most of the time. So I think I think you can do both at the same time, honestly, while it is tough.
Yeah, and I agree with Nafessa. We should do both. I should do both. But the truth of the matter is that for my family, right, the same way that my dad did not let me into his finances, he doesn't want to go into my finances. So he's not going to worry about if I'm doing something to save or what have you. He's not even going to bother to ask me, right? So it is my responsibility to kind of have boundaries, because if I don't, it's basically the same sacrifice they've done for me. I have to do it for them, right? So they would not be that concerned about perhaps my immediate, savings or retirement, just maybe because they did not think about it, right? And ultimately, there's a saying that, my financial security is going to be on God's hand in a way, right? That God will provide, so I will be okay. As long as I do good deeds, I will be fine. So often you find it is that you are giving your earned money, and in exchange you get prayers, which are wonderful, but in return, right, that is kind of like the blanket, the security blanket, or the return for that you will be okay, don't worry. But as we know, the reality set is otherwise.
Really appreciate what you're saying. And so we're here joining us here at Planet Wekeza with Nafessa Wazir, representing Ethiopia, representing all of Ethiopia, and Konko Ba, representing all of Senegal. What is this a Western concept? What I'm about to say is that it's almost that old adage, do you teach others, your family and friends, how to fish, or give them the fish? Do you ever encourage or teach those that you love how they can build their own financial security? Is that a cultural or community or family conversation? Let's start with Nafessa.
Yeah, I would say it is really not a part of the conversation. It's pretty much there's a huge emphasis on the spiritual aspect, as Konko said. Like, for example, I remember my dad would say, because this is actually a quote from the Prophet Muhammad, because we are Muslim, use the Prophet's advice, but it's living in modesty. Living in modesty, it is half of a way of survival. And I think that just shows a lot of the mindset back home, and even in my parents now, where it's like they're focused on survival a lot of the time. So if you're trying to give them that education that we have here, specifically financial education, it kind of goes over their head, because it's like, I'm focused on how can I pay my rent? How can I, get my next meal?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for me, Sabrina, it would be a little bit presumptuous for me to say that I'm even adapt or able to learn to teach somebody how to fish in Senegal, for example, right? So it's almost like I'm saying that I could fish because I have an abundant sea that is rich in fish, and the reality there may be different. So what I found myself do is try to adapt concepts here and share that, right? For example, I could have a cousin that started a small business and that's looking to, package some coconut chips, for example. This is a real life example. And then she'll say, I need X, Y, and Z to start. And I look at it, I'm like, all right, so I can help you package it. I can help you do this. I can help you maybe do something to market it and then advance you some funds without expecting anything in return. And I've seen that could be successful, but I also could see that could be not so successful in the sense that, to Nafessa's point, you have a business, then you have primary need. Even if the business does somewhat well, right, then the profit, instead of going back to the business, is going back to satisfy your primary need. So even though my attempts were genuine based on what I know, because the reality on the ground are not familiar to me as much, right, then it's hard to actually learn how to teach someone how to truly fish, right? It's almost like they have to adapt, their reality with what you bring. And unless you're there in a longer period of time, right, a longer investment, right, make sure that there are processes that could be followed up and some backing and some support. Just a quick sending of money and quick instruction on a WhatsApp or an email could just go so far.
That's very interesting. Is this another concept? What I'm about, a Western concept? There's a concept called "pay yourself first." Would it be how would it be perceived if a family member asks you for $50 and then you say, "I will give you the $50 if you say $5 of the dollars"? How will that response be perceived?
I think I could start with that one. It's almost that person is going to say, you're going to either give me money or don't give me money. Don't tell me what I'm going to need to do with it. Straight up. That may be like their first instinct, right? Because I don't know if they're in a position to save. Because again, we're talking about a daily need that someone needs to satisfy, right? So you need to have those before you can even think of saving. Now, I thought your question may have gone also the other way. How about if somebody asked me money? I said, unfortunately, I can't give you any money right now because I got to pay myself first, and I'm committed to buy stocks every week for $100. So now I don't.
On Wekeza.com. Go ahead.
You go. So now I have to pay myself first, and then that wouldn't have come across nicely, right? Because now I'm surpassing the primary or the immediate need for something that they may consider as a luxury need. Even though you and I know that is not, right? It's just a reality with inflation and everything going on, that if we don't plan our own financial future, right, no one is going to do it for us.
Mm-hmm. Nafessa.
Yeah, I'm thinking of, when you go into an airplane and they say, put on your own mask first before you help others. Mm-hmm. But, like Konko said, it is kind of tough to kind of give that response to them and being like, you know what, I'm going to put my foot down. You need to save this amount of money, or just try to make an educational opportunity, because they do kind of see it as, well, you're in this place of privilege. How can you even say that kind of thing? Like, that's because I have had conversations with my cousins like that, and it didn't go well. But I wonder if there is a way that we can meet them in the middle,
to encourage them to have a modest, safe, egg basket of maybe it's $1, just having an extra $1 that they tuck away, or they start to, maybe if the request is for school fees, for example, that they can contribute that $1 towards that school fee, and then you or someone else is making up that. Is that a scenario that would ever be considered? And again, I'm in the West, so I'm really interested in how you all are processing what I'm saying. Or is that because your communities in Ethiopia and Senegal are based on community, period, not with Sabrina dialing in with the pay yourself first and the fish and all that kind of stuff. Just give me the money because we are community. We are family. So how are you processing what I'm saying?
Well, I could just say there are mechanisms actually, right? So, for example, there are neighborhoods where women will put, let's say, $20 away, 5, 10 women a month, right? And then each month, one of them would get all that money at once.
Like a susu.
Right? Sure.
Yep.
Right. So I don't want to give the impression that there aren't mechanisms of savings at all. My point of view here is what I'm experiencing immediately, right? What I've seen in my immediate circle, and sometimes my peers in the same situation encounter. Just to say that. And the second point is also a logistic, right? Of like saving money. Where do you save it? People don't walk around with like safes in their homes, right? It's not that safe because you have people coming in and out of your home all the time, people that work there all the time. So where do you put that dollar away logistically, right? If it's not in your person. So there's just that even logistically, there's just so much you could save on you at all time and watching it. So that again, that mechanism that I just described helps, right? Now you have more of those community-based saving mechanism. And now you have digital ways where people could actually put in money. There's a very popular app that is all over West Africa and other countries that now people can actually have money on their phone. So they could actually save money somewhere secure. And it's a preferred way, if you ask a lot of people, to even receive funds. So now I believe there are more options of putting money away in an annual basis. Now that I thought of it a little bit further.
Nafessa, did you want to add to that?
So, I mean, I'm sorry, what was the question? I'm so sorry.
No, if you wanted to add to what Konko just said.
No.
Okay. Let's talk about trust and particularly how it relates to your faith and money. And so, for example, if you promise to send $50 for whatever reason to satisfy the need, and for some reason you're unable to do that, a completely legitimate reason why you can't send that $50, how does that translate in terms of your community or family's contract with one another? Trust. And is there a word for trust in your respective language?
So I can go first for this. There's the word for trust is amana, and that is trust and security. And I would say that if you weren't able to provide that money for them, because we have a sense of like community, we would probably look to our siblings, our friends, other community members that can pitch in. We also have a similar money circle, which is called Baha and Harar, or Oko in Amharic, which is basically a money circle that helps people save money and access credit outside of the banking system. So yeah, I would say that it's heavily based on community outlooks.
The word for trust is gum, trust in me, or trust me. And in that scenario, right, I guess I'm going to go ahead back to one piece of advice that I got from my parents as well, is always try to commit to half of what you can, right? So that would already put you in a position where you won't have to do that. So if I could give you $100 a month, if I were going to commit to something, let me commit to 50 or 25. So that I know at the least I won't have to face you and say I cannot get you to 25, because then the impression could be I changed my mind, right? Because it shouldn't be that big of a difference if you committed at some point, unless I have to not explain it, right? And I would have to explain it in detail, right? Like my spouse needed X amount or Y amount, and that's why this month I can't do it, or this happened this month. So there's got to be some type of explanation to follow that of why you could not commit to that engagement or to that agreement per se. So yeah, people would generally accept it, and obviously and believe that you're telling the truth, but courtesy require to give an explanation a little more detailed than you would have to in the West, for example. In the West, you could simply say, this month I cannot.
Oh, yeah.
I'm insanely jealous of that.
Oh, my gosh.
Right?
Well, the focus is on both of you, though. What is the approach or towards debt? Muhammad owes Sarah money and is unable to pay it for whatever reason. It's not a traditional satisfying a need, but maybe Muhammad had promised to give to Sarah or to pay for bought Sarah's seeds for her farm. And then you understand what I'm saying, the debt. He owes a debt and has not satisfied that debt to Sarah. What does the family ever get involved in that? Is that a personal one-to-one issue? Is it a community issue? But what is the approach or perspective to debt?
I mean, it's extremely negative. One of the first things that I thought, one of the first words that popped into my head when you said that was shame. And I guess to avoid that shame, it would be viewed as a community issue to solve Sarah's debt immediately, like getting it from somewhere, working harder if you have to, borrowing the money from somewhere else to make the issue go away.
Does Sarah have the power to raise that issue to the community level? Where does Sarah go to say Muhammad hasn't paid his debt? How does it get to the family level?
Other family members.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So just like Nafessa, like embarrassment also came to mind, right? But sometimes it's embarrassment from the person who actually made the loan, right? And the responsibility somehow to uphold the dignity of the other person. So there's something called masla. So the person who even lent the money may not disclose, right away that this person owed them money until they really had to. So they will sometimes push that obligation to the point where it's impacting their financial stability, right? Because they didn't want to out that person to uphold their dignity for the masla piece of the tradition or our values. So sometimes it's almost reversed, right? The person who actually was supposed to get paid back may have to absorb or even maybe swallow that debt and not ever receive it in return. Wow. if they could absorb it, unfortunately.
So in the short time that we have left, this has been illuminating. Just thank you so much. And I know there's so much more that I could ask you. You have one foot in the West, in the United States, and the other foot, heart, spirit, faith in Ethiopia and Senegal, respectively. Let's say there's a young person. How do they navigate both financial systems as well as start to build for their own financial security while not turning away from their very, very important faith and community? What, let's say, 2 action steps a person they don't have to be an adult. I mean, a young person, they can be an adult, anyone that's trying to navigate this obligation, expectations, community, all of that, trust. How do they navigate the two and still build for their own financial security? Give them 2 pieces of advice, please.
I would say focusing on gaining clarity around what your values are first, and looking at the values that your home country bring and then the Western values bring, and finding something in the middle that works for you. So for me, it would be looking at the value of patience and then balancing the generosity with boundaries.
I would say, take care of your overall health primarily, because without your physical, mental, and spiritual health in a country that is not yours, your ability to be useful to others will be limited. So I think it's Nafessa's point on clarity, right? Gain that clarity on why you're here. Don't lose that sense of purpose. And the second is take care of your mother and father first, right? Before you try to take on more responsibility than you can. Because there's a thing, and unfortunately I know, or I only know the thing in French, la charité bien ordonnée commence par soi-même, right? Like donation or charity, well organized, starts with yourself first. So I would think, don't overextend yourself, be patient with it, but take care of your personal health, all three: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and then look at your immediate parents, right? Because you know how they sit, and your peace of mind, has a lot to do with their peace of mind, and that would also benefit your general health. And then you could broaden up, but I think those would be the two advice I would give to one person.
Final question. Is there anything I did not ask you that you would like to say?
There is a proverb I'd like to also mention. It's the one that doesn't save or have resources doesn't have a way out. Sak zelela ugam ela, meaning, you literally don't have a way out without resources or money. So there is a strong emphasis on gaining those resources, even if that does mean, unfortunately, leaving your home country to hopefully give back.
Konko, is there anything I did not ask you that you would like to say?
Well, I think you said it, but I'm just gonna double down on it. Is when you mentioned about the fishing aspect, right? I think that it's a good platform to show the people or tell to the people listening, that there are opportunities, right, to build something in Africa, right? Whether it's Senegal, Ghana, Mali, Guinea, Ethiopia, and that teaching how to fish, it's a process, right? It requires a certain investment, right? Not only monetary, but time. So I think you've alerted or you referenced it, but I just wanted to share that and welcome or challenge, I want to say, our viewers, our listeners, right, to see how can they contribute in a way. And it's a win-win situation here. I'm not talking about just donating for the sake of donating, but how can a partnership, right, in this learning how to fish, begin? So I think you touched on it, but I just wanted to add on a little bit to it.
Nafessa Wazir representing Ethiopia, Konko Ba representing Senegal, Sabrina Lamb representing the world here at Planet Wekeza. Make sure you download the Wekeza app. We have exciting announcements coming over the next couple of weeks, but stay close. And thank you so much for joining us here on Planet Wekeza.